Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Malifaux Edition 2 Encounter Report. And this game was phenomenal, even if I do say so myself. So much fun, it forced me to think so hard. My opponent was a great guy, and I hope that all comes across in this report. If all games are like this one, then Malifaux's going to have me hooked like it's brilliance. Okay, so what have we got here? Neverborn versus Outcasts, 50 soul stones. The strategy is reconnoitre. In the scheme pool we have a line in the sand, protect territory, spring the trap, make them suffer, and one I can't remember. My opponent revealed protect territory and kept his other scheme secret. I took spring the trap and make them suffer and did not reveal either. Basically, my opponent is a much more experienced player than I am, and I didn't think my chances of having anything left alive at the end of the game were particularly good, so I went for schemes where I could score victory points as we go. And I've told my opponent to come at me like he would anyone else, because I want it to be fun for him, and I hope to improve at this game's faster by facing strong competition. But let's get cracking. So, deployment. I lost the card flip, and so deployed first. From the left, we have a Teratot, Tuco, who's deploying from the shadows. Not a good idea, I suspect, when you don't know where your opponent's going to be putting his models, but I do love to learn by mistake. Basically, I think of this guy as my Alpha Strike or Disruption piece, as his shotgun looks like it can be pretty badass at pinning half an opponent's team, or some of them anyway, in the deployment zone on the first turn. I think it's going to take some finesse to use him right. Hanging back here we have the Cherub, who's going to try to buff Lilith with hazardous terrain effects. We have Lilith with her big sword, the Living Blade, Beckon Malifaux, and Rapid Growth. Young Nephilim, Barbarous with Fears Given Form, and this is warning, mistakes were made. I didn't find out until a little bit after playing this game that Fears Given Form affects all models, not just the enemies. If I'd known that, I would have given him a little bit more space and nothing would have really changed. On his right is another Young Nephilim, then we have a Teratot and a Teratot. Zooming in on my opponent's deployment, we have Hannah, a Void Wretch, that looks like Rusty Alice, with her Desolate Soul upgrade. And if you see me doing somewhat unusual things during this game, then be aware that I didn't know what upgrades any of his models had, as my opponent didn't reveal them and I wouldn't have known what they were even if he had. Moving along down the line we have Viktoria of Blood, with Mark of Shazui and Oathkeeper. Next is Viktoria of Ashes, with Survivalist, Sisters in Fury and Oathkeeper. There's a free core Librarian, a Malifaux Child and another Void Wretch. As it happens, a couple of days before we played this game, I'd read a little bit about the Viktorias. So I knew the sisters were fairly killy, and my opponent did tell me that their minimum damage was likely to be 5, but I also know that the Malifaux Child can heal them, and they'll both heal when it does that. So the child is number 1 on my hit list, and I was trying to get it with Tuco, but unfortunately my opponent out-deployed me. So yeah, what I didn't realise was that almost every single other model in his crew can do some form of healing. But for the time being, I am happy in my ignorance. Let's kick things off. Turn 1. There's my hand, and I win the flip to activate first. Tuco falls back behind the wall so that I can cover the firing lanes either side of that building. And he can't be charged because he's disguised and he's in cover, so I'm hopeful that he's going to survive to the next turn. And I drop a scheme marker to start laying the trap. Green Void Wretch moves up, lurking by the building. Babyface Teratot on the left moves up and drops another scheme marker. Orange Void Wretch moves up to the rubble. Goathead Tot moves up to lure him and drops a scheme marker. Lots of sprinting going on here. Basically, I'm trying to plaster the board with scheme markers so that I can set the trap for Viktoria of Ashes wherever she goes, and I'm hoping my opponent is thinking that I'm trying to go for line in the sand or protect territory. Rusty Alice moves up to there, and I've got no idea how dangerous she is with her upgrade in this strategy, as when she kills models she can turn them into models for my opponent, which is freaking awesome. The Cherub goes because I want to use his R-Land ability so that my Nephilim can move up quite far and also drop scheme markers. Malifaux Child copies someone's ability and does some buffing, not sure what it was. Young Nephilim moves up, traps everywhere! Hannah comes plodding round the corner. Lilith goes, phases through the wall, and casts Beckon Malifaux. Now I've got a couple of choices here. I put them in front of Hannah to slow her down. It looks like she's got a big gun, and basically I'm just trying to protect Tuco. I could have put them here, but I thought as he can't be charged and he's like 20 something inches away, he should be safe from anything that's left to activate. And looking at this again in hindsight, I probably would have put them somewhere here to try to protect the Terratops from Rusty Alice, because I do not need abominations running around everywhere. Well, bugger me, excuse my French. I didn't see that coming. Viktoria of Ashes frickin' pops some pills, leaves Usain Bolt in the dust, discards Oathkeeper to go fast. She can't charge, so she must have run at him with 3 actions and pretty much thrown a sword through his head. She must have flipped a Severe to kill him like that in 1 hit. Yeah, a little bit stunned there, not gonna lie. So after that's all happened, the Skullhead Terratot gets as far away from that crazed she-devil as he possibly can. So Viktoria of Blood moves up there in the background, and then my second young Nephilim flies hard to get between the wall and the rubble there. And I've got a bit of a risky plan. The Freycore Librarian moves up, and finally Barbarous bounds forward to take up a central position. Turn 2, there's my hand, and I win the initiative. Young Nephilim darts forward, ignoring the movement penalties of the forest with his wings, and drops a scheme marker. Basically, I'd been trying to arrange my crew so that almost wherever Viktoria of Ashes went, she'd be surrounded by these markers. Maybe I could have played it cool and waited for her to charge something and surround her with 1 more marker, but I decided to go with the sure thing, and netted myself 3 victory points for Spring the Trap. Moving on, the Malifaux child successfully casts Sisters in Fury, and I presume he's doing that to save an AP on Viktoria for killing. And that's fine with me. I move Lilith up to where you see there, and with her 3-inch melee range from the Living Blade, she's actually engaging Viktoria of Ashes. I then burn a Soul Stone and cheat in my King to ensure I Tangle Shadow the Void Wretch, swapping it for the young Nephilim. And I've tried to place the Wretch so that Ashes can't get an easy charge to get into her own melee range with Lilith. Throwing the young Nephilim upfield isn't ideal, as I'd want it hanging around Lilith to make the best use of rapid growth. But I want that minion for Make Them Suffer, and it'll have to do. With Hannah thus engaged, I beckon Malifaux up in front of Rusty Alice, and then hack away at the Void Wretch. And because it's incorporeal, I only do 2 damage. So Ashes goes. Moving into range, but not Black Blood range, the sneaky thing. He flips the Black Joker, and then for the next attack, I flip a King for my defense, so Lilith survives completely unharmed. Barbarous nimbles up and charges the Wretch, but can only do 1 damage to it. These are tough little blighters. Viktoria of Blood goes apeshit, discards her upgrade to go fast, charges the, the Cherub, and freaking Musashi's it. Terrashot drops back to make sure it can't be charged or shot. Hannah punches the young Nephilim, and I flip the Black Joker. So she cheats in a ton of damage, but he hangs on, and unfortunately she doesn't take Black Blood damage because she's remembered to wear clothes. The Victorias could take a note, maybe. The second Terratop drops back, ensuring that I'll hold this quarter for this turn. Although looking at it, I probably shouldn't have put them so close together, as Viktoria of Blood could get in there and use her Whirlwind attack to finish them both off. Didn't realise that. The Void Wretch shuffles up and places a scheme marker. The final Terratop puts his ass to the corner. And maybe it's a bad thing to have 12 Soul Stones worth of models, doing nothing but hiding, but his whole crew is made of henchmen essentially. So if I throw the Tots into the mix, I know they're going to die. And right now they're earning me victory points, so I think that's the right decision. The young Nephilim tries to feast on Hannah, and maybe I should have gone for the 1 AP attack instead and tried to get Frenzy, but I probably didn't have the cards for it at this point, and he only ends up putting 3 damage on her, which is still quite nasty for weak damage against armour. Bit of a blurry shot showing the Librarian moving up. And then the Wretch activates and dies to fear the given form. Get in! So I score my 5th point and reveal Make Them Suffer. So with that, the turn ends, and in upkeep I score a 5th victory point for Reconnoitre by holding the 2 table quarters on my side of the table. Remember, I've got a Terratot lurking back behind this rubble, and the Librarian is actually within 6 inches of the centre of the table, and doesn't count for scoring. And if we back up to this picture, you can see that once the Librarian moved out of the scoring zone, I'm actually contesting this table quarter with my young Nephilim. So my opponent gets nil points, and I'm starting to feel good. Surely he can't catch me up now. We go into turn 3 and I get another solid hand. I win initiative again, though I think I spent a Soul Stone to do it, and the Nephilim in the central woods powers out after the child. as with Barbarous and Lilith so out of position, I'm just going to try to take down all of his minions and peons however I can and try to start scoring points that way. That, and I want to make it so that if he moves either Alice or the Void Wretch out of the this quarter, I'll be contesting it. Blood activates and goes for blood, charging Barbarous, but she misses her swing and he backhands her 4 inches back. So not only has this death machine done no damage this turn, she's also back in the 6-inch bubble for not scoring. Barbarous, you little beauty! And there's the card that did it. So Barbarous activates and I make a big mistake. Or I think I do anyway. Looking at this picture again, if I'd have moved Barbarous to there in the middle, I think he'd be in range to tie all 3 models down in his engagement, meaning both Ashes and the Librarian would take Fear's Given Form when they activate, and coincidentally Lilith wouldn't, and he'd still be scoring. But as it is, I moved him there and I can't remember if I did any damage to Ashes. So going from epic win to epic fail with Barbarous. Hannah activates and squashes the Nephilim, and my opponent reveals that he had Make Them Suffer, and earns his first point. And looking at our crews now, with mine with almost all minions and him with almost all henchmen, Make Them Suffer, it was a phenomenal scheme for him. So Lilith swings away at Ashes, but it's not enough. She turns out to have Hard to Kill from her upgrade, and uses a Soul Stone to put her back over the threshold. Darn. So Ashes keeps standing, and I think the Librarian activated and virtually healed her to back to full health. Maybe not that much, but it was a bit demoralising, whatever it was. Terratot in the corner just stays there and passes its action, which was a silly thing to do, I think, given that Alice rocked up and took some shots at the other Terratots. Very lucky she didn't kill one. So with that, the wounded Terratot goes for a sprint, and powers up his maximum 20 inches, not quite making it to the safety of the illusionary trees. Malifaux Child runs away from the Nephilim, and the last Terratot falls back further to protect him from Alice and Blood next turn. The Void Wretch jumps into my quarter and drops a ski marker. And finally Viktoria of Ashes activates. Weak damage on the Armoured Barbara still does 4 damage, and I think I get pretty lucky because I think that's all she did. Turn 4, and just look at that hand, that's the red Joker by the way. However, my opponent finally wins the initiative and activates with Ashes, and she vents her PMS, sorry ladies, on Lilith Good. He weak damages Lilith for 5, he weak damages for 5 again, but I use my final Soul Stone to save her. And with his final attack, I play the red Joker. Why didn't I play this at the start, you ask? Well, that would have put Ashes at a -2 to hit because of Lilith's disappearing act. Well, in terms of my abilities, I've been playing this game like a motherfucking champion. So it's more than about time we had a colossal, stupendous, out of this world dose of imbecility. Not only did I play this win card once I let my master get to death's door, in the heat of the moment I couldn't add 14 to melee 7 and told my opponent my duel total was 20, whereupon he cheated in a king and Lilith frickin' dies because I can't do preschool maths. I hate my life. Ooh, that makes Barbarous mad. He clubs Vicky into the ground and nimbles into engage Blood, stopping her from charging him next turn and trying to pin her in the no scoring zone. Rusty Alice activates and rapid fires at the Terratot. And my mistake, this one wasn't the damaged one, she only does 3 damage to it, and it lives. So lucky. And then it flees for its life through the illusionary forests, which don't disappear on Lilith's death apparently. And then Hannah, hiding around the building, drops a scheme marker. And I decide I'm not going to be able to get both the Void Wretch and the child before the game ends. So I'm trying to focus entirely on stopping my opponent getting points through Reconnoiter. So I move the young Nephilim up to keep contesting that back table quarter with Hannah. The Void Wretch hightails it after the fleeing Terratot, and then this Terratot comes out of his corner, and I'm just trying to give myself options for which table quarter I put him in the next turn if it comes to it. Sadly, Viktoria of Blood activates and makes salami out of Barbarous, and now I'm screwed. The last Terratot moves up to here by the building. Pretty sure I'm out of Blood's charge range, and I want to try to use the last turn for it to go and unflip this scheme marker, because I don't realise that Alice is in fact a henchman with an engagement range of 2 inches. The Librarian dashes forward towards the Terratot, and the Malifaux Child gets a little bit aggressive, and I believe that ends the turn with all quarters contested. We go into the 5th turn, and there's my hand. It's all about just holding on now, and hoping I've picked up enough points. My opponent gets the initiative, and the Void Wretch easily kills the Terratot. I try sprinting my Terratot up to get to that marker, I can't make it. And then it dawns on me that she's a henchman and I've just realised what I've actually done. And my opponent was very sporting and said I could take back the move, but fuck it, I made the move, so let's let fate decide. So Alice swings away, she hits him for 3 damage, and then misses her last attack. Go Terratot! Not being able to do anything else, the last Terratot runs back for safety. Viktoria runs up because she can, and I don't know why she didn't drop a scheme marker. But I worked my arse off for this game, and I feel a bit of a bastard for not pointing this out to my opponent. So, sorry mate. Young Nephilim just goes double defensive, because why not? Librarian also runs up and doesn't drop a scheme marker. Hannah twiddles her thumbs, Malifaux Child twiddles its thumbs, and the game ends. What a game! I don't know about my opponent, but it stretched me to about my limits. There's so much thinking in this game, and although I made some colossally embarrassing mistakes, this game feels almost like it was the first glimpse I've had of actually thinking several turns ahead in a game. Or activations, I mean. Absolutely had a brilliant time. And that leads us on to the rather tricky issue of the final scores. After such a good game, the score doesn't really matter. But as I'm trying to learn to be good at Malifaux, learning how to score games properly is kind of important. Basically, we left this game thinking my opponent had won it 7 points to 6, and absolutely deserved to, by outplaying me right at the end and making such a comeback. But going back and doing this report makes me think those numbers weren't quite right. I got 6 points, I'm sure that's right. 2 for Reconnoiter, 1 for Make Them Suffer, and 3 for Spring the Trap, because you can't earn more than 3 points for a scheme. My opponent scored 1 point for Reconnoiter, 2 points for Make Them Suffer, and 3 points for Protect Territory by having 2 scheme markers and revealing the scheme. And that's for a total of 6. So I could very well be being blind, but I can't see where the 7th point snuck in. If you spot it, please put it down in the comments, but otherwise I think this battle was actually a 6-6 draw. Whatever the case, this was an absolutely cracking game and I can't wait to play this guy again. I hope you enjoyed it too. Take care.